Okay, so welcome along. If you're thinking of cutting staff or freezing wages is the only way this year for you to save some money in your business, well, I've got news for you. That kind of quick, impulsive, reactive thinking may save you pennies immediately right now, but in the long term, it's probably going to cost you more pounds, shillings, and pence in morale and in retention, and also in terms of your reputation, both internally within your business and outside your business too. So let's talk about how smart HR can actually help save you money in your business without harming your team, your morale, and your infrastructure internally that you're going to need to rely on to make money into the future. So let's get on to this. So welcome to this month's video breakdown. This is our May edition of our On the Pulse newsletter. That's our monthly newsletter, which is ram-packed, by the way, with practical HR advice for busy business owners and care providers, people just like you. So just in terms of that, when you get to the bottom of this on the page, by the way, you can also go and access that yourself and have a brief read through and come back to me with your thoughts. So this month, we're going to be tackling some really big issues. So can you cut business costs without damaging your culture in your business or losing your best people? Spoiler alert, you absolutely can. Of course you can. So my name's Mike and the company is called Cabell, and we specialize in terms of helping and supporting you in some key areas around your business and getting your people right. I've been doing this jazz for the past 20 plus years. Doesn't look like it, I know. I say that every time. That joke's getting old. But in this episode, I want to go through three core areas, really, and that is how to support younger employees, your Gen Z, struggling with money worries. The second one is how to reduce your business costs without harming morale. And the third and last one is how to introduce AI in HR without making a mess of it. And there is a key element there to that. So we're going to squeeze through these really briefly. But again, please have a look at the On the Pulse magazine that we've got in there, your newsletter for May, and go into more depth and detail. So let's get straight into this. So section one I want to look through. So the first part around this is looking at how do we support our employees, especially our younger employees, with any money worries that they're feeling right now. Now, the first thing I will caveat around this is I will always say to you that there is a very fine line between at work situations, so the environment that you can do something about, and also the kind of home environment, the element that's nothing to do with work that regardless may impact on your employees' lives, but you're limited as to what you can do something about. This is very much going to blur those boundaries. This is very much going to be something that we're going to kind of pinch across both of those in some way, shape, or form. But you've got to remember when you're managing this, when you're talking through with this with staff, if you're having individuals coming forward you, whether that's a Gen Z younger employee or an older employee, it doesn't make any difference. An employee is coming forward to you with these problems. You need to remember there are limitations to what you can do to help people. As much as you do want to help people and you do want to help your staff, and it's in your benefit to help your staff, by the way, there are limitations as to what you can and what you can't do in terms of helping your staff. So let's get started on this. So obviously for those, and I'm talking at the moment specifically the younger generation that are in your team at the moment in time perhaps, but this could equally apply to everybody, of course. But when you've got a Gen Z is feeling the pinch of obviously the rising living cost, who isn't? Student debt, perhaps, maybe something that's on the horizon, and more, maybe even a pension confusion, and also maybe they're just struggling to get the latest kind of meal deal at Pratt. Who knows, right? The fix is, and this is one of our core values, is to start with transparency. Honesty is the best policy. So one of the things when we're talking about what's within your purview of what you could do and help people, this is very much going to be clearly it. So be transparent. So be clear about how you're making paid decisions. So how those are functioning. If you're with us and you're working through on a productivity booster, obviously that's going to be linked very much towards deliverability. It's going to be very much linked towards productivity, outputs, and what people are actually doing and where they feature in that. So in terms of that honesty part in that process, it's how are you? What more can they do to get to that level? You know, if somebody's competing at that point and they're getting the highest pay rise or the bonuses, how do they compete with that? How can they level up that? What else can they do? What more can they achieve? And how can they do it better or faster, or whatever the case may be, to help them to go up that scale at a faster rate? You can also offer them, you know, other resources, put them in other places. And one of the things I would look to do with that, if you don't already, is get an EAP system on board. That's an employee assistance program. So it's so much more than just cancelling. It also offers support for people going through bereavement, financial complications, marital breakdowns, whatever the case may be that's going on in someone's life. It's available 24/7. And it's worth its money in gold in terms of an investment for you as an organization, because it's helping you to help your staff and create an environment that's going to increase morale that thus has an impact on you on the bottom line. That would be a great resource to start with. And in this section is something I would absolutely promote to go forward with. If you need help with that, please contact me. Think about flexible kind of other options. So, for example, when it comes to payroll, are there options in terms of more flexible payroll? Could you give advances to help people? Could you do in internal kind of rewards or loans that potentially some businesses do? And again, do. What a great sentence. Again, that doesn't apply to everybody. Not everyone's in a position as an organization to do that. You could offer saving plans. You could offer reward schemes. You could offer systems and processes that enable them to get discounts at different places as well. That can also help them in terms of shopping, gym membership, etc., etc. There are a lot of things that you can do there that add up and make a big difference to somebody's life, especially as a Gen Z in that particular situation, can make a massive difference. As a little tidbit right here, one of the things I will say is when I talk about bonuses, people always naturally jump to money, a financial value. There are lots of little things that you could do that don't have huge financial costs to them, but do have a significant factor of reward for individuals, especially within this grouping. So things like that, like, you know, could be like vouchers, it could be gym memberships, it could be Costa vouchers or Starbucks, whatever your preference of coffee is. You know, it's up to you. But there are lots of different things that you can do as rewards linked to performance that you can give out to individuals that can help them within everyday life, as well as the EAP service, which I would absolutely implore you to actually look into. So in this next segment, I want to focus on, I want to look at how, you know, keeping that theme about cutting costs, about cutting your cloth, and all those different bits and pieces. How do you then foster that into your own business and cut costs within your organization without cutting your culture? How do you not take your legs out from underneath you? Because you're going to need your people. We've always said this, that is the people paradigm, which is people come with people problems, but you can't advance and grow and scale without people. So you need people to grow and scale, to increase your business, and to obviously get more reward within your organization in total. But with that comes other people type challenges and problems. But you can't cut your people out from your organization entirely. It's going to harm your business in the long term. So if you're feeling that pressure to cut costs within your organization, I totally get it. It's a massive thing right now, especially with what's been happening in the last month, in April, about the cost of employers' national insurance going up. So I totally get it. But here's the truth. A panic-led decision, no great decision, by the way, is ever being made in a panic situation. I've got to say that. But panic-led decisions kill productivity faster than any budget could ever be cut. And productivity is the essential component to your people. That's your output. You know, your revenues are going to be driven by that level of productivity you're going to be able to drive in your organization. The higher the productivity, the more cost effective you can provide a service, develop a widget, whatever it is that you do or manufacture, you can do it better and more cost effectively. And if you start to harm that, then obviously subconsciously and internally, your costs are going to go up. So your hidden costs, everything else will start to increase. It's going to be counterproductive. So Here are 7 steps in terms of a framework that we use with clients to have a look in how we can do this in smarter rather than not deeper in terms of cutting those costs. And there's always lots of, one of the things I always say, and it's a cliche kind of a term, and I get that, but there's lots of many ways to skin a cat. And by no means am I saying these 7 are the only 7. There's lots of different ways to do that, and we can explore all of those with you. But before you start going out, outside the rails, these would be the ones that I'd want to talk through with you first, to be honest with you. So the first one, just to go through these quickly, is do a cost analysis. What's essential? And that's not just essential in terms of people. I'm talking about all elements of your business. So let's do some kind of inventory of this. What are your expenses? What is essential? What's discretionary? What's just pointless, but it's there anyway? Could we cut it? Even if it's only saving minimal amounts of money, it's better to be doing that than obviously carry on spending it, right? And wasting that money can be put to good use in other places. So I would do a cost analysis. And in that, when I'm looking at it from a people perspective, I'd also be looking at the roles that they're doing. And we should be doing this on a regular basis. So one of the things I spoke about in January was doing this kind of assessment, an organizational structure assessment as to, are you structured for the future? And I would definitely look to bring that into a cost analysis about the structure. Are you structured for the new world that we're moving into, for the situation your business may be facing in the world of tomorrow? And I would look to do a cost analysis around that as to whether that's built in the right way or whether you need to adjust it. And that may mean that you need to move finances of roles to different places, to different roles. And that restructure could be less about redundancies and more about tweaking around the edges. And the next one is to involve your employees. I think this is a great one, by the way. So if you're in a bigger organization, you may be in a unionized environment. That's fine, in which case I would involve them. But at the very basic microscopic level, it is important to involve your people within this process. It's less about something being forced upon you, but you being part of something and being aware that, possibly for the business, it's a catch-22 that you've got to make a decision. Not everyone's going to be happy with that decision. Not everything's going to be fantastic with that decision, but you have to make a decision, and everybody can accept that and come forward with ideas and be part of that process and come on that journey. You'll often know exactly where the waste is, and so will they. And you might be able to find that actually everyone's on that level playing field and knows exactly what they're talking about. The third one is to focus on efficiency. Now, asterisk this, because this is the key one for me, because I think this is actually something that is quite often overlooked. Whether you're in a cost-cutting kind of mechanic within your business right now, or whether this is you're doing fine, I would still look to do this in any case, because what we touched on about productivity previously, this is essential. And with the productivity booster, again, hit me up if that's something you'd be interested in. It is essential to make sure you're getting value for money from the resources you're paying for. So, for example, when we talk about employing people, I always say that when you're taking on staff can either be a cost or an investment. If it's not working, things are going wrong, there's lots of sickness, absence, performance issues, etc., 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 that person's going to be a cost to your business. It's going to be extracting resources, it's going to be extracting time, and therefore you're not just paying the salary to that person and not getting value for money, you're doing more than that with hidden costs in terms of time, energy, investment that's being put into that. That's a cost. We don't want costs in our business, we want investment. Investment drives future revenue into the business. So when we look at some of the breakdowns around your cost per employee to revenue, there should be a good equilibrium there that we should be trying to aim for. So focusing on efficiency, streamlining processes, work smart, not hard, although you could argue I work smart and hard. Yeah, we all get that. But we want to make sure that we're using the resources, especially your staff resources, in the best, most efficient way that's going to be driving your business forward. And again, that could come back to looking at your organizational structure and reviewing that to make sure you're structured in the right way. But this has to be one of the key ones, because you can make a lot of good wins on driving more efficiency rather than looking to harm your morale and reduce staff levels. Review supplier agreements is another one. So this is number 4, I think it is, on the list. Oh my God, counting's failed me. So review supplier agreements is another quick one. So you can renegotiate, you can consolidate, you can simplify. There's lots of different things you can do, but it's something else that you could definitely start to look at.
Be smart about redundancies. So if you're looking at redundancies, if we've gone through all these processes so far and you still are not touching the sides of what you need, unfortunately, we're getting to the place where there are no other alternatives but to look at some of these other fixed costs in your staffing elements and looking at redundancies before you jump head first into an empty pool. It's important to know that redundancies cost money. So they don't come for free. So when you're looking to save money, redundancies actually cost money to save money, and there's a payback period to that, of course. But you need to go in, eyes open to that. And I would always say that there's lots of other things that you can do around that. So, for example, you can look to reduce hours. We come back to looking at organizational structure and efficiency kind of processes. This would feature into that. And you can look at temporary fixes first. So you can look at making temporary reductions in hours for a short period of time and looking to increase. You can look to put that out to people. So when you're looking to talk to people and involve them in that process, that you can actually go through a process of asking people to come forward, those that would want and welcome to do that for a period of time, then that would be great. You might not get anybody, but it's a way of being able to involve people before you start to enforce that. And then obviously you want to look to invest in your existing talent. So again, training is always going to be cheaper in the long run than hiring. So I always like, being able to promote from within. I always like being able to hire from within. And to train people, because if you've got good people, you already know that's a good person within your fold of your organization. That's one of the biggest things with recruitment to struggle with in the first instance anyway. So if you can get that person into a role and retrain them or train them up a bit more, that's always going to work to your advantage. And the seventh one is to protect morale. So this is why redundancy always should come last, because not everyone's going to be made redundant, right? You're still going to have people in your business because you need people to be able to scale and grow. It's the people that have a paradigm. So if you're looking to make redundancies, there will be the people, the leftovers. That sounds awful to call them that, but they are. And the people that get left over are the people that often get forgotten about, because all of the attention, and rightfully so, there's a lot of attention to those individuals that are going through a redundancy process. But that's going to impact on the morale of everybody that's left over. And going through any cost-cutting process is always going to have an impact on morale. And you can try and promote that into celebrating small wins when you're going through those processes, like when you're trying to fine-tune and focus on efficiency processes. Absolutely, that's a good thing. And bringing people on that boat with you is always going to be good. I would always communicate openly and involve people. Again, coming back to that other process we talked about involving your employees, being open, being transparent, being honest. Absolutely communicate to people and involve people. And that way it stops the Chinese whispers from having such a destructive impact. And also show that you care. And I don't mean just show that you care as in pretend that you care, but actually genuinely bloody care. It makes a big difference, because people can actually sense that. We're not robots. So we do actually know when someone is actually meaning that and when someone's actually pretending that or putting that on. You need to actually care. And I'm not saying you don't, but you really do need to provide people with the idea that you do and help to promote morale, and don't just stop at the doorstep of redundancies with this process, carry it on afterwards. If you're going through a redundancy process or any of these processes we've discussed, continue that communication thereafter to help to promote that morale. It's not just what you cut, remember this, it's also about how you carry the team through that process. So that's the key element. You will have people that are going to be left over from this, and they will have the knowledge of what's happened in the past, and they will know that potentially, if this has to happen again, this is what happened, this is how it was managed. So if you do a bad, crappy job of it, it's going to probably make people think twice about whether they stay or not. So just remember that. So moving on to our next section that I want to talk through before you go away and you read the newsletter from me is AI and HR. So how to handle it with care, right? So let's talk through this. So AI is everywhere now, right? I mean, who's not using AI? And when used well, it can actually be a lifesaver. I will, for full disclosure, we use AI a lot, an awful lot with what we do. For example, even doing this video, yes, we have used AI to help this. When it comes to helping and supporting us with our newsletters and articles, we do use AI to help us with that. It's not done all solely by AI, but we use it.
and the same as other people do. And I'm going to touch on one of the other things that we also use it for. So we work with our recruitment partner. Again, that's available for you guys to take advantage of as well for your recruitment needs. But when we come to looking at the advertisement process, when we come to look at the JDs and other bits and pieces, we heavily lean on our internal AI that we utilize to help to generate that. It's based on our partners' kind of key infrastructure of what forms a great advert, what's attractive to candidates, etc., etc. So it's built on parameters that the AI is given, but you're using it in the right way. And we definitely do that. And that's one of the things that comes across. Payroll processing to a degree can also have that in place. I wouldn't use that necessarily myself in that way, but it's there. Surveys and employee data, definitely. So internal surveys, I would definitely look to utilize AI to help with that to a degree in terms of questions you're asking, what it is that you want to look for and breaking that down. Analyzing employee data, absolutely. Again, we utilize our internal AI to do that as well. So as part of our productivity booster, we're looking at measuring what we call scores on the doors. It's taking the scores of individual productivity, team productivity, and business productivity. And yes, we use AI to help with that as well. And then we can compile that into something that's meaningful for our clients. And we've got a guide that we work through as well, which is great. So it's there. We use AI, and I think you should do too when it comes to HR, as a guide. Not to do everything, but as a guide to help you to hold your hand through what you're doing. So one of the things I will touch on before I move on this as well, we actually will be letting you know this month that we're releasing our GPT called Harry. That is our AI that will be available to you if you're a client. You'll be able to have access to, you'll be able to utilize. It's built around us, our principles, our values, our productivity booster to help you with things like generating job descriptions, goals for your business and your teams, your appraisal processes, all of the above. It's going to be built around that. So that'll be fantastic. And I will be releasing that later on this month. So you'll be getting that if you are a client. If you're not, get in contact with me. We can talk about that as well. And it's a big but. So if we're moving forward on this, when used badly, it can really damage trust because people can see nowadays we're getting more savvy as to when you're using AI. It can be seen that potentially you're going to be breaching confidentiality, and it can get into some legal hot water as well, especially if you're not being specific. And when we're talking about HR bits, there's a lot of law that we talk about, and you do need to be quite specific on that. Otherwise, you can get the wrong answers back. And if you just foolishly go along with what AI tells you without questioning that, you can find yourself in a bit of hot water. So if you're bringing AI into your HR wheelhouse, so to speak, do it with your eyes open, which is why I would always say when we do release Harry to you, we'll be doing a video around that as well to go through that. But you need to use it to support. It's there as a hand-holding process, not to replace people. So you've got to bear that in mind. I think AI is a supportive mechanism to help people. It isn't there to replace people or to replace roles or to replace functions at the moment to a degree. So just to remember that, and definitely not at the cost of, I wouldn't use this and rely on this at the cost of the trust of your staff. So I wouldn't look to just emphasize this point for a minute. I wouldn't look to replace people by using AI to replace those people and completely cut your trust within your staff. So bear that in mind. Hand-holding process, not replacement process. So just to recap at the end of this, thank you very much for staying along for so long. So I want to say these are the key takeaways that we focused on so far that are in this month's newsletter. That is, be proactive in supporting employees with money and stress. Again, the tidbit on that is to look at EAP systems. So it's an employee assistance program. If you need help with that, please contact me. We can help and support with that as well, but that would be a key component to put in place to help people. The third part is about cutting costs and a strategy around that, and not to react in blind panic. And again, the key tidbit around that is to focus firstly on obviously your efficiency processes. Oh my God. And also to involve and communicate well with your staff and protect your staff morale. The third one is to use AI carefully, not carelessly. So in that sense, it's a hand-holding process. It's not to replace people. So when you lead with empathy and plan with purpose, your business and your people will come out stronger. And that's the key component to this. Empathy is key to what we're doing, as well as the plan of attack that you're going to use. So make sure at the end of this, you actually go and look at the newsletter below. It's got lots more in there. You'll find that edition below on the Pulse for May. If there's something I've said that struck a chord, or is something you're thinking about or want to know more about, then please get in contact with me. Details are also below, or you can contact me and book a meeting with me below, and that'll be fantastic. And we can talk through that and see how we can help and support you moving forward. Thank you very much. Enjoy the newsletter.